Hello there, I am Chris Sissons. My business is Market Together, and this video is an introduction to a workshop that I'm running on the 9th of April called How to Tell Your Marketing Stories Online. I'm leading the workshop with Carmel Page, who is a performance storyteller, and you'll get an opportunity to meet Carmel later in this video. The aim of the workshop, as you can see, is to help you work out how to attract better customers and grow your business. Why do most people struggle with storytelling? Why is storytelling so difficult? On one level, we do it all the time. You have possibly, if you've met people today, you have probably told them a story or more than one story. But we don't often think about how we tell our stories, and indeed not only how we tell them, but how we deliver them. Just take a look at the image that's on your screen at the moment, and you could pick any of the elements in this image, the chicken or the dolphin or the pirate, and could you take that and think of a story in your own life and incorporate that image into it? Difficult, isn't it? Can be extremely difficult. And yet that is the sort of work that you need to be doing, working on your stories to make them more effective so that you can captivate your audience. Now, to do this, you need to have three aptitudes, and these are the three things that you need to hold together and to understand in some depth. And the first one may come as a bit of a surprise, and that is that you need to know your business. And you may say to me, well, I do know my business. I know my business better than anyone in the world. Well, you do. That's true. But do you know your business as well as you could? That is the question. Knowing your business in depth is a lifetime's work, because as your business grows and develops, more and more comes to the surface, and you learn more and more about your business and its implications as it interacts with the rest of the world. The second thing that you need is to prepare your business narrative. And this is a series of stories and teaching that you can prepare for a specific audience. So you may well have a number of separate narratives that together are your business narrative. And finally, you need to understand strategic marketing. And I've put that word strategic on the front because it is really important. There are hundreds, thousands of marketing methods, and you can flit from one to the other forever. And unless you are strategic in your marketing, you are unlikely to make significant progress with your business. So let's take each of these three aptitudes in turn and look at them in a bit more depth, beginning with know your business. And when I coach my clients, I help them to understand 5 elements of your business. And I'm going to tell you what those 5 elements are. The first one is your branding. And branding is more than a logo. In fact, I don't recommend when you're starting out that you even bother with a logo. You can use, well, there are alternatives, I won't go into them here. Also, your branding is far more importantly. Imagine what it is that people would discuss about your business when you are not there. That is your branding. The second element is products and services. Now this is the one that if you say, oh, you need to know your business, everyone will tell you about. Because it's the most obvious part of your business. But how many products and services do you have, and how do they relate to one another? Do you have a strategy so that when you get a new customer, you perhaps introduce them to something low priced, and then as they grow to trust you and see the value of what you're offering, you can then increase, you can then make them more expensive offers? Do you have a strategy for that sort of thing? That's all part of understanding your products and services. The third element is your proposition. And your proposition is the promise that you make to your customers and your prospects that you can solve their problem. And so if you make a promise to solve the problem, then clearly the fourth element is that problem. Where does the problem come from? You're not solving your own problem, you're solving your market's problem. And so you also need to know your market. Now, when you take all these 5 together, you can then begin to do some really exciting work with them, because all 5 of them can be upgraded. And when you upgrade one of them, it tends to lift the others as well. So you can begin to improve your business in all 5 dimensions, and this can get really exciting and lead you to getting a deeper vision of your strategic marketing, of which more anon. But let's move on now to the storytelling, and I just want to say a word first of all about stories and statistics, because a lot of people think that if you want to persuade someone about how good your business is, you should use statistics. I don't disagree with that, but let's look at it this way. You use stories to move your audience emotionally. You can use stories at any stage in your sales funnel. They are particularly effective at the entrance to your funnel, because if people are moved emotionally, they're more likely to say, yes, I am interested in what you're doing, I'd like to know more, and so they will opt in. Statistics, on the other hand, provide evidence of credibility. And so you use statistics further into your sales funnel. And I deliberately chose this image because it shows a woman who's looking at those statistics on a laptop and clearly quite enjoying them. That's great. And I bet if you asked her, she could tell you a story about those statistics, because you can use storytelling to convey your statistics. In fact, I would go further than saying you can use them and say you must use them. And the reason you must use them is because if you don't, your audience will make up their own story about your statistics. So storytelling is particularly important. And I think that's a good cue for me to introduce you to Carmel Page. Carmel and I had a conversation a few days ago, and here is a recording of that conversation. And here I am in real life, and next to me is Carmel Page.
Hello.
And we're here today to tell you a little bit more about the core of the workshop, about storytelling. Now, Carmel is a professional performance storyteller, and Carmel, do you find it easy to tell a story?
Yes, I do. I've always told stories, but I think we all tell stories all of the time. We often just don't realise we're doing it. We think we're just chatting, but we are telling stories.
Yes, and as you say, very often we don't know that we're doing it, and very often we don't recognise the things that happen to us as potential for stories. How do you find raw material for your stories?
Quite often, I just wake up in the morning with ideas in my head, which is my excuse for why I have to lie in bed for a long time and just think about things. But lots of things happen to me and I just kind of tuck them away, and I think, anything that touches my heart, anything that really moves me, I know if it's got rich emotional content, people will relate to it.
Yeah, yeah, and one thing that concerns me, I mean, I used to be a scientist, so I'm very used to quantitative data, which you can then store in computers or notebooks or whatever. But one of the things that sort of alarms me a bit about storytelling is how on earth do you keep tabs on all the stories? Because you can't just keep numbers in columns. How do you do it?
Sometimes I have those moments where I just go, aha, that's... So sometimes it's just an expression that somebody says and you just think, oh, I really like that, or something has touched my heart. And I have a book that I keep on my desk and I just note down in it anything that's happened that I think might have a place in a story. And then once I've written it down, I feel, like you say, with numbers in columns, once I've written it down, I've got it and it's mine. And when I'm ready, I can use it. And then on my computer, I have a whole folder of work in progress. So lots of stories I've started writing, I've written in the bit that is really powerful. And when I need that story, I can go back and just pull that out and use it.
So how do you identify a promising idea?
If it touches my heart, or if it makes me laugh, then it will probably do the same with other people. Sometimes something happens that's just quirky and odd. I was in a pub recently, and in the toilet they had pineapples on the ceiling, and I just thought, there's a story in that, and I went home and I wrote it.
Oh, I'll have to look forward to that one. I notice you use a lot of traditional stories in your storytelling and mixing them with sort of modern life. So how would you describe the way you use traditional stories?
The old ones are the best ones. So if a story's been told for hundreds of years, it's because it's a good story. It's a story that people want to hear and they really relate to. And so I'll often reuse an old story but make it more relevant to today. Quite often I change the genders in stories. So I'll have stories about silly young princes who have no idea who they want to marry, and the queen in desperation sets a quest in order to find a young girl who can complete the quest and take the prince's hand in marriage as the reward. Just because it's good to think about what people are interested in today and to pick up on things that people relate to nowadays.
Yes, and yes, I'm just trying to think about how many girls would probably decide that the reward's not to marry the prince. But I mean, we all can think of our favourite princes. So how do you breathe life into stories?
There's a lot of things you can do to bring stories alive. There's a lot of simple, I'm not going to call them tricks of the trade, I'm going to say there are skills. And actually they're not hard to learn, but you do need to practice them. You need to be taught them, and then you need to practice them. And that's why I think doing a training course with a storyteller can really make a difference, to actually share those very simple things we do that can really bring a story alive for people.
Yeah, and this is really important when you're trying to market your business, that you tell stories that compel attention.
Yeah.
I mean, if you go to business network meetings, you hear loads and loads of stories that begin, I was born in 1973 and I went to school at somewhere. You know what you're in for, and attention wanders.
And I think that's the advantage of this kind of training, that I can just come along and describe quite simply what it is you need to do to really bring a story alive, and people can have time on the course to try out those skills so that by the end of it they've got a piece of writing that will really grab people's attention.
Well, that's great, and we're all going to be looking forward to that. So thank you for answering these questions, and we'll now go back to the PowerPoint presentation and we'll find out what happens next. Welcome back. I hope you enjoyed that. I want to say a little bit more now about your business narrative and introduce you to 3 key steps that we will be using during the workshop. The first thing you need to do is to find raw materials. You can find raw material in your life experience, things that have happened to you, things that you've done. You can find raw material in your business, a lot more than most people think. Think of somebody who makes jewellery. They have raw materials. They might use, say, gold and precious stones. Gold and precious stones have history. There are stories attached to them. You could use those stories. You may be designing a piece of jewellery that is that has a history itself. Why are brooches shaped in the way that they are? Why is this particular bracelet shaped in the way that it is? And then there are the methods and the tools that you use to make those things. Now, whatever you do, whether you make things or whether you are a coach, you have material like that that you can use. And then there are other sources. You might remember at the beginning of this video I asked you to look at that image of an elephant and a dolphin and a pirate and various other things, and to see whether you could incorporate one of those images into one of your stories. That's an example of using another source. And other sources might be traditional stories, images, and so on. So, let's move on from there. The big mistake that people make when they tell stories is that they go straight from raw material to delivering their story, and they do little or no preparatory work. And this is where we really most of us need to up our game. To prepare a story, you need to decide on the plot. A single story might have several alternative ways of plotting it. You need to decide what your plot is. You need to add emotion to the story. This is very important. You need to move your audience. So it's the emotion that the audience experiences that is important, not your audience at the time, not your emotion as you tell it, or the emotion that you experienced when you went through that particular life experience. And a part of that is the suspense. If you can build tension, you will hold the attention of your audience. And then the third step is to assemble your business narrative. What is the message you want to convey to your particular audience, to this particular audience? What is the message? Then you can choose the stories that will convey that message and add in the teaching content. This is the stuff that we're going to cover in the workshop. Let's move on now to strategic marketing. And I'm going to offer you a very brief history of strategic marketing. Strategic marketing history in 2 parts. And the first part is what I've called brand marketing. If you think back to the days before the internet, this was the main type of marketing that we experienced, and we still experience it today. Brand marketing is advertising. We used to have it on television, in the cinema, on the radio, books and magazines, advertising hoardings on the street. And the thing to remember about this approach to marketing is, first of all, it has a cost. So this particular image that we can see here looks like it was a glass panel. It would have cost money to have it made and then to have it installed. And that amount of money, there is no way of knowing whether you ever get it back, because you don't know how many people who buy Coca-Cola from you have seen that advert, and even if they saw it, whether it actually moved them to buy a drink which they otherwise wouldn't have bought. But look at that advert, and I suspect that the red lettering Coca-Cola immediately stood out for you, because with some minor changes, pretty much the same logo still exists today. So it makes us more familiar with the brand. The alternative is direct marketing. Direct marketing existed before the internet. You might remember the junk mail that came through the door with the long sales letter. That was direct marketing. They have a list, they know how much it costs to send out that letter, they know how many people buy as a result of receiving that letter, because when you send the coupon in, it has a code on it, and so they can work out how much money they made from a particular mailing. These days we can do the same online. You may have an email list, which is a very simple, basic form of strategic marketing. You can send emails to that list, and if you do it well, you will eventually make money from that, and you can factor in your time and the costs, and that is one way of doing direct marketing. Indeed, advertising online is another way of doing direct marketing, because you can measure the costs, because there will be analytics that will show you exactly how many people have clicked and how many of those people eventually bought your product. So, strategic marketing has a number of advantages. I'm going to quickly describe 3 of them. We'll go into a lot more detail at the workshop. The first thing it does is it builds a following. This is people, it helps you to find the people who are interested in your business. And the key thing here is that it is not a hard sell. You can work, you use methods that help people become familiar with your business, growing confidence about your business, and therefore begin to trust you before they buy. Secondly, it helps you to manage your business data, and the great thing is you can do this from day one. Costs you nothing if you use MailChimp, and it helps you to structure your business data, and as it becomes more sophisticated you may need to move on to another platform, but at least you are organized from day one. And perhaps even more important than that, it protects your business data too. Your email list is your property. It can't be taken away from you. And this is really important, because on social media you might have hundreds of followers, but you are dependent on the platform not moving the goalposts. And if the platform changes something, you may find that that has a negative impact on your business. Furthermore, it is possible to be banned from social media, and it has to be said, you can inadvertently cross some line that you didn't even know was there and be banned. I know of 2 people recently, one who was banned for a week from Facebook. I'm not sure what he did, but he didn't even know he was doing it at the time, and the other one was banned indefinitely, and again he didn't even know he was doing it at the time. There are ways of working around that. I am not saying you don't use social media as part of your strategic marketing, but if you consolidate your business with an email list, that part of it is secure. It can reduce a lot of costs, because you're marketing to a group of people that you already know are interested in your business, and it saves time too. So, the underlying idea of strategic marketing, and I think you will find this pattern more or less present in any form of strategic marketing, is OVO. And their initial letters, first of all, of the opt-in. People who are interested in you will opt in. There are loads of strategies for getting people to opt in. We'll look at some of those in the workshop. Value. Providing your customers with good value means that they will stay opted in. And your offer. And what that is there will come a point when you've offered enough value that people will be interested in buying from you. You don't want to leave it too late, or they might go somewhere else. You don't want to leave it, but you don't want to do it too soon before people are ready to buy from you. In the workshop, we're going to go into this in a lot more detail. So, how to tell your marketing stories online takes place on Tuesday the 9th of April from 9:30 to 12:30 at Learn Create Sell 108 The Moor in Sheffield. You can see the workshop leaders there, myself, Chris Sissons and Carmel Page, and the workshop will be a great help to you because you will walk away with a number of ideas for stories that you can tell to promote your business. Not only that, we will show you how to develop those ideas into full stories. This workshop is unique because it combines storytelling with the OVO marketing strategy, and we'll go in depth into how you can use the two skills together to market your business. I'm not aware that anyone has ever done anything quite like this before, so it's really exciting. You should apply now because tickets are limited, and if you apply before the end of the month you get a special early bird rate. So how you do it is you finish this video and then look below it, and there's a big friendly button. Hit the button and it will take you to the Eventbrite page where you can sign up. It's £47 plus the Eventbrite fee, and it's a bargain at that price. We're going to have a great time. Don't miss it. I'm Chris Sissons. I hope to see you there on the 9th of April at 108 The Moor. Thank you.